Hello, I'm here with Jack Roberts, um, writer, publicist, artist, and we're going to talk about the Sheela Na Gigs. The next Monday, the 18th, the day after Patrick's Day, is traditionally Sheela Na Gig Day. So a good moment to discuss stuff like this. Jack,
Hi,
welcome to the show.
thank you.
Good to see you here. Um, we'll talk about you later, but let's just get on with what's a Sheila Na Gig, or who is Sheila Na Gig? What can you tell about her?
What can I tell? I mean, for anyone that doesn't know or hasn't seen one, I mean, the best thing is to see one for a start. Maybe you could hold up my book there and
I
show
can
the
hold up your book.
yeah,
Uh,
and just show the cover. But you've actually got better light than me.
yeah, I
I
have.
mean, that is a Sheila gig. A Sheila gig is what they call a figure exhibiting herself is one description. But basically, they're religious icons, and that's what that book is about. That book is about the establishing them as religious icons, because in the academic world and generally, they're often regarded or have been regarded as similar to gargoyles, kind of like additions to a whole cornucopia of different images that appear on medieval churches, But that book is basically my declaration of them as an Irish, a specifically Irish image of a religious icon. I call them religious icon.
Religion.
People have argued with me over this icon, but what is an icon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is an icon is a good question, but what immediately comes up with me is, where do you find them? Is it in churches?
Yeah, they're essentially a religious icon.
Yeah,
So essentially found on churches. The earliest are on churches.
yeah, and from what time? Because
Well, we don't know the beginning. We don't know the beginning of this phenomena, but it appears that it would have arrived about the same time, curiously, about the same time as the Normans. So you're talking 12th, 13th century as the
okay,
beginning. And
yeah.
it's a period that doesn't actually last that long. It only lasts through the period from the 13th century to the end of the Irish cultural world, which is 1600. Bang, it's all over. You know,
And it's all over. Okay,
yeah. So it's
so
like 300 years. Yeah.
yeah, so if you see them on churches as religious icons, you would not. That doesn't really suggest that they have a pagan origin or something, or do they?
Well, this word, you see, pagan, that is another thing that I have a big thing about, really, is like there isn't actually in Ireland any difference between pagan and Christian. If you
Yeah,
take it in a historical context
yeah.
and see what they were up to at the time that they were putting up Sheela Na Gigs, it would appear to us as very pagan if we landed back into that time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the origins date from before we see them now, or the ones that we found. How many do you think there are left over in Ireland?
What was the last count? 117? Or was it 107? God,
107.
107, I think it
Yeah.
is.
So
Yeah.
there
There
must.
again, that's variable because ones have turned up since I've written that book. At least three have turned up.
Okay, okay.
Ah,
So there's still new founds,
yeah.
but we can imagine that if it stopped like 400 or 500 years ago, that we lost a few as well.
Oh, it's undoubtedly, yeah, because of the way we find them. They've often been found buried, and
All right, all
and you
right.
see the old churches that they were on have all collapsed. You
Yeah, yeah,
some classic examples of where they've gone and cleaned up a church church graveyard or whatever, and they found Sheila Na Gigs in the rubble.
Wow, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I contacted you is because I have one nearby. I live on the Cork border, not far from Balleyvourney, so we have a very lovely, tiny Sheila Na Gig in the old church there. I'll show a picture of her later. Um, but the day after Patrick's Day is generally earmarked as Sheila Na Gig Day. Is there a relation to Patrick, and what's the significance of the day? Why do we celebrate it, or where does it come from?
Well, where it comes from, basically nobody talked about this, and I'm probably got a finger on most of this sort of stuff. Nobody really talked about it till one of the best researchers, Barbara Freitag. Where's the book there?
Yeah,
A book on the Sheila Na Gigs,
yeah, I see it.
and she dug it up. She's a good academic. It's a very academic book. This. It's an academic view of the Sheila Na Gigs. It doesn't divert very much from me, except that it comes from an academic perspective, whereas I come from a more grassroots people, cultural perspective.
Yes.
And in it, she dug in there and she dug up lots of references to people celebrating the day after Patrick's Day as Sheila's Day. And they're genuine records of this occurring into the mid 1800s. Nobody knows where it ended, nobody knows where it started from. It's just a few references, not many actually.
Okay. So
And
she
yeah,
found them in the old archives that
yeah,
Sheila was celebrated after Patrick's Day,
yeah.
and I even read that in some occasions they say that Sheila was the partner or the spouse
Yeah,
of St. Patrick.
the wife, yeah. They
Yeah,
said that. Yeah, they
yeah.
say that.
Yeah. And and then Sheila more or less got sanctified. She was turned into a saint. Was she a goddess before, like Bridget?
Oh, well, what the shooting gigs represent? Well, they're all individual representations. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why I draw pictures. I depict them an awful lot because they're so varied, yeah, enormously varied. Yeah, one of the things that got me sort of really looking at the whole subject in the beginning was when I saw one or two and they started speaking to me. I started looking at the material and I realised that the people that were mostly talking about them had seen maybe one or two or a half dozen. They hadn't seen like the hundred odd that were really there.
yeah,
So they would make remarkable statements about them based on how those few that they saw looked, you know.
yeah,
So, like, they're all so different. Some aren't particularly, let's say, exhibitive, they're, while others are really grossly exaggerated, exaggerated genitalia and stuff like that. Others almost benign. Yeah, see, like Kill Peck,
yeah.
which
It's
is
a
interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting subject. So it's not like the genitalia is actually that vital an aspect of them, although that's become an overriding way that we see them.
Yeah, and so because of this depiction, we would regard them also as fertility symbols, isn't it?
Well, this is it. Yeah, yeah. Anything like that is regarded immediately as
Yeah.
fertility.
Yeah, and when I showed up with friends at Ballivorny for the first time, we noticed them. We noticed her depiction. Uh, I knew of her being this fertility symbol, and the idea was, why not try to? It's high up there. Why not try to touch it and gain some of this fertility? I have an image of someone doing that.
Yeah.
This is the Bolivorni one, and this is a friend of mine, and she touches it, yeah, more or less to find as for a reason of fertility. Um,
But that whole thing that Ballivorny is totally wrapped up with fertility. All the
yeah,
rituals. everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And would you regard it as the original way of working with the statuary, or is it more or less either folkish that people just started doing that, or is it completely new age?
I doubt whether in the beginning it was like that. I think these things, it's you see, the Sheila gigs aren't the only things that get regarded as magical talismans, if you like.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, all kinds of religious objects get taken like that, Boulogne stones, and the whole variety of things. Down to saints' teeth. That's
Hmm.
the whole big mechanism of religion, really.
Yeah, yeah.
But Balleyvourney is really interesting in that there's this whole ritual. Have you been there on the Saints' Day?
Yes, yeah, on Gobnait Day, you mean? Yeah,
Saints'
of
Day,
course.
yeah,
That's it's the whole day there at Balleyvourney. That's in February.
yeah,
Uh, I don't know the exact
it's-
date, but
yeah, yeah,
that's Saint Gobnat's Day is very big, and Gobnait, of course,
huge,
being
yeah,
the saint of the beekeepers and the smiths, blacksmiths, I think,
yeah.
and it's a coming and going. There's a holy well there. There's a statue.
It's
Uh,
everything. Yeah,
there's rounds you can do. You can walk there and pray, and then in the middle of this event is this ruined church where you have this lovely tiny Sheila Na Gig above this window. Uh, uh, People who don't know it will probably hardly see it because it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
taken up. You know that it's this little thing where the lady's hand is. So it's slightly taller than a hand, and
Yeah,
you can climb in the window from the back and touch it. Yeah, and so there's a real ritual there. Big day on St. Goblet's Day, and I think next Monday there'll be some Sheila people there as well, and
yeah,
maybe on all the sites where the Sheila Na Gigs are found.
yeah.
Um, when I spoke to you last August in Clara in the middle of Ireland, Jack, you told me that all the Sheilas were connected to the saint to saints
Yeah.
most of the times,
Or
but
figures,
not always the same
female,
saint.
yeah, some kind of female special figure, sacred figure.
So you were implying that for instance, Sheila in Balleyvourney is connected to Gobnait, and in other places she would be connected to the goddess of that church. Yeah, yeah.
Nearly
That's
everywhere that we can, that we have some kind of context or history of a Sheila Na Gig is
okay.
connected to a sacred, holy, special, powerful woman. You know,
Okay,
under one of those categories. So
yeah,
Ballivorny is an absolute classic
yeah,
in that the ritual's still there, thanks to all those Cork people. And I
yeah.
mean, that place has got a huge car park for a little church, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
Always people there. You
yeah,
never go there and
yeah.
you're alone. There's
No,
always people.
yeah,
And she's not recognised by the church.
no,
That churchyard is actually run by the council. It's not
yeah,
run by the Catholic Church. People say to me, it's all the people try and connect up the Sheila Na Gigs with the church, but the church has rejected all the sites where the Sheila Na Gigs are, all the churches.
yeah.
We
So,
got one here in Clare where I live, or I live in Galway, South Galway. And over in Clare we have near Corrafin we have Killing a Boy Church,
mm,
which is so similar to Ballivorny that
mm,
they're almost identical, except that in Killing a Boy the rituals have all died out. Whereas
yeah.
in Cork they carry on worshipping.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and that's what we noticed when we got there. When we, of course, this is Ireland, so you speak, you get to talk to people you meet on places like that. You know, you're never alone there,
yeah, yeah,
and you notice that what you said earlier, that between this layer of the Catholic Church that surrounds all these people, they're all born Catholic, baptized, married in church, and and their final ceremony will be in church. But below this layer, they're all they're all so pagan.
You know what they say?
No,
S- Scratch a Catholic and a pagan pops out.
well, there you have it. There you have it. That's what I noticed. I remember seeing a woman there, and we were at the Holy Well in Balleyvourney, near Gobnait Church, and there's a road leading to it, and then a lady popped up, and we talked to her, and she says, "Yeah, I should be going." And behind the well, she jumped over the fence and and just disappeared into the forest, not using the road at all. It was like a fairy showing up and popping away again. It was marvelous. Yeah. Um, so, what can you tell me about the book you wrote? What's in there? Why should people have it? I can tell it, but you probably tell it
Well, the,
yourself.
for me, I've written, well, basically 3 books on the subject and
Yeah.
a map,
Yeah.
which was part of a process because I'm an artist and I draw everything, you know.
Yeah.
That I was actually what was happening. What happened was I had a map of Ireland. Well, actually, at the time, a map of Ireland and Britain, because my first book included Britain, which this book doesn't.
Yeah.
It's called Ireland of the Sheila Na Gigs because it's about Ireland and its Sheila Na Gigs. And it does talk, there's a chapter about the Sheila Na Gigs in Britain on the mainland. But for many reasons in that chapter, I'll explain why I don't include. In fact, I don't even call them Sheila Na Gigs. Sheila Na Gig is an Irish word, and in England they've nicked it, and they should make their own word because their images are very different by and large. There's one or two, like the Kilpeck one is classic. That it's a Romanesque exhibitionist figure. It's on a church that used to be Wales, as now is England, but it's right on that border, an area that would have had a huge amount of Irish influence or Celtic influence.
Mhm.
And the few Sheela Na gigs that have any relation to the ones in Ireland or any similarity are in areas of Irish influence, like Scotland, which was, part of Ireland once,
It was,
or
yeah.
or Wales and parts of the west of England, you know. But by and large, the majority of the figures in England are of Romanesque origin. And there's a whole chapter on what that is, like the period of the Romanesque where they built these enormously decorated churches. That's where gargoyles start, and you've got all these images dotted all over the church. So that, say, like the one at Kilpeck that you showed on the screen,
Yeah.
which is the classic one. Everyone loves that one because it's so classic. But it's in amongst, if you go to that church, it's up on a corbel, so it's like sort of part of the roof support, and it's not alone. You go there and you have to look all around the church until, oh, there it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas in Ireland, they're individual. They often, or almost predominantly, the only image of any significance on a church or a
Okay.
castle. Yeah. And they're in places where you don't have to look for them, like they're obvious.
Well, thank you. Actually, I took a small stroll through my library to see if I had anything more of you here. I found some
No,
map
yeah,
books, maps and books, stone circles of Cork and Kerry, and this is the little booklet that contains about 100 stone circles just in Cork and Kerry,
yeah.
which is interesting. I also have this one here, Sacred Circles.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And you told me recently that you have a new one coming up.
Yeah, I just pulled it out. Oh God, where is it? Pull this one out. Ah, uh,
It's uh, Fairy Fort, Fairy Fort of Ireland. Yeah, your image is
a bit
is
blurry.
mirrored, but it's no problem. It's
Yeah,
Fairy Fort of Ireland by Jack Roberts, and you can purchase it at his website. I
or in
think,
your local bookshop.
or in the local bookshop. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we have, of course, we have this lovely bookshop nearby in Kenmare that carries, like, I think, all of your work all the
He does
time.
indeed. He was straight in. He took the first. Well, not
Yeah,
quite the first, but he was straight in. He's got a
yeah.
whole
But
pile.
for people who don't who don't live near Kenmare, or are not coming there, it's bandiadesign.com is your website, and they can order it there as well.
So, absolutely, yeah.
Ah, perfect, perfect. What shall we suggest to the people watching this? Look up if there's a Sheila Na Gig nearby. Is there something you can do it, or just Google Sheila Na Gig nearby me or something?
Well, there is actually a website called Ar- Irish Sheila Gigs. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Okay,
If you look up Sheila Gigs Ireland, you should get it.
you get the website where all of
Yeah,
Irish Sheila Na Gigs
yeah,
are.
it's done by a guy in Dublin, uh, Guy Gabriel, and he's kind of like logged them. He's just basically logged them all down. You know,
Okay,
it
perfect.
was kind of a hobby thing that he started years ago actually, and he's updated it since.
It's love work.
So I haven't actually looked at it for a little while, but usually he keeps it fairly updated,
Yeah.
and it has
Well,
really good basic information.
yeah. What I'll do, I'll look up that website and post it in the description of this video. And
I
so,
think I have a reference to it in the back of my book there.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, anything more you have to add about the Sheilas? What did we miss?
Well, you missed the whole story.
Well, yeah.
No,
Well,
it's a huge story.
or the whole story. And I recommend read the book. I'm a very avid reader, so I read a lot. But most of the times, I don't read books from cover to cover.
Mm,
Your book captured me, and I read it from beginning to end in just a single day or 2 days.
good.
And it's really well written. It's well researched. The images, the photos are lovely, so it gives a great insight. And I was so very happy when you agreed to do this interview, and so thank you for that. And wish you a lot of luck with your new Fairy Ford book. I'm sure I will buy it,
Mm,
and hope to see you again soon, Jack.
yeah, and you. Thank you. It was my pleasure, Jack.